Hello and welcome to CATSweek. I'm Annalise Poorman. On April 7th at the Ellettsville Plan Commission meeting, Director of Planning and Development Kevin Talati shared a preliminary plat approval on behalf of petitioner Josh Clark. Talati explained that the commission already approved Phase 1 of the development and now is being asked to approve the development of 65 single-family lots in Barberry Lake Estates.
I don't know if you remember, they did Phase 1, 2020, I believe it was, which was 5 lots on Loudon Road. This will be the other 65 lots to the west and north of it, basically covering most of the corner at Loudon and Reeves, across from the schools. The average lot size is probably going to be around a quarter to a third of an acre. A few of them are a little bit larger due to easements and so forth, but generally you're going to have about a quarter to a third of an acre. There's a lake on the property that will remain, be basically open space. I don't want to call it green space since it's water, but you get the idea.
During public comment, nearby resident Toby Turner expressed concern over the lot's close proximity to his driveway, the density of the proposed development, and the impact the impervious surfaces could have on increased flooding in the area.
My drive is probably 5 feet off the property line. So I'm looking at homes anywhere from 15 to 20 feet off my drive at this point. And those homes are going to be built 15 to 20 feet off a driveway, which is mine, which will have headlights and noise. And so I guess my concern is the proximity of those homes being to that driveway and to my property line, which a few months ago, this was cow pasture. We have 100 acres there. We have cows. We raise corn. We raise beans. We'll continue to do that. This development is currently across my driveway from those fields that will be farmed. So I didn't know if the commission might look at some type of landscape berm, some type of barrier, some type of landscaping to separate that development from the property before we have issues down the road. Fence, I know each property owner at some point will probably have the opportunity to build a fence, but then I'm looking at, 6 or 7 homes of hodgepodge fence along that property line. So that was one of the issues I kind of looked at, and not only the noise and the lights of my vehicles in their home, but they have kids that are going to play in the road or play in their yards, which is, the setback is, they can build a home, closest 10 feet to that property line, Rick? Is that correct, setback?
On lot 47.
47 is 10 feet, the rest of the lots are 15? 20. Yeah. So yeah, I do have a concern there of, I live in the county and am currently in the county. My other concern was the density. I'm sure that this development probably meets all your requirements of quarter-acre lots. Not sure what the capacity of the structure there for the roads and the streets, especially there near the school. If anybody's drove through there at 8 o'clock in the morning or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I know we already got school administrators out there guiding traffic, and I think there's always a police officer dedicated to that intersection. So you're adding, 65, 70 more homes to that area. So density was a concern of mine.
Commissioner Sandra Hash responded to his concerns about stormwater.
When we met for the inspection to give them a temporary certificate of occupancy to get them in their classrooms to finish the school year, they wanted to move. We did discuss the stormwater and retention and some erosion control. So the contractor will be addressing those things. And they have to go through a final inspection yet on that property.
Hash also suggested that they reach out to Monroe County to communicate their concerns with their MS4 coordinator, Kelsey Thatonia, about water runoff increasing downstream. The commission voted unanimously to approve the petition. At the Monroe County Election Board meeting on April 7th, Election Supervisor Karen Wheeler gave an update on how the early voting process has been going.
So it has gone extremely well. It is also pretty slow, but it's really the same as if we went back 4 years ago. I don't think it'd be much different than the other primary in the midterm. It's the big spaciousness has been wonderful. Definitely would be more fun if we had more voters. So if I can get more voters to come in, that would be wonderful too, because it's just the excitement of having people come in is wonderful. Did I say wonderful enough times? Sorry.
Former board member Hal Turner stood in for board member Donovan Garlitz, who was unable to attend. County Clerk Nicole Brown shared information in response to an anonymous call Garlitz received regarding the proper way to write disclaimers on campaign signs.
Election board member Garlitz received a call regarding disclaimers on campaign signs. It was, as I understand it, an anonymous call. And he did not know what to do with it. I notified the party chair regarding that. And so first I thought I would read the statute about disclaimers. And this is not to upbraid anyone or chastise anyone. It is about education for our candidates and our campaigns. If you are a first-time candidate, you may or may not be aware of that. And so I will read that. I'm reading from section 3-9-3-2.5, and I've gone down to section D, which says, a communication described in section B must contain a disclaimer that appears and is present in a clear and conspicuous manner to give the reader or observer adequate notice of the identified persons who paid for and when required, who authorized the communication. A disclaimer does not comply with this section if the disclaimer is difficult to read or if the placement of the disclaimer is easily overlooked. The disclaimer must be of sufficient type size to be clearly readable by the recipient of the communication. A disclaimer in 12-point type size satisfies the size requirements of this subdivision when the disclaimer is used for a yard sign, a poster, a flyer, a newspaper, a magazine, or a direct mailing.
The board recessed until the next election board meeting scheduled for May 5th. And we'll have more CATSweek after this message.
For hurting families in Monroe County.
A contribution to children who are vulnerable and in need of an advocate.
A staff that goes above and beyond to support and advocate for children in need of services.
The web of remarkable people who are dealing with difficult situations.
So many young people that are in need of help and trying to find a stable family, a stable place to live. Without the CASAs to make that happen, many of them would be unable to find a good home.
I love being that voice for the child who can't speak for themselves in court.
It takes me out of my comfort zone, and it also helps others.
CASA means supporting our community.
Being a CASA is making sure that your village is healthy and whole, and that the children in your village will someday be able to help the village as well.
A child who doesn't have a voice, maybe in their family situation or a school situation, now has a voice that can advocate for them.
I really enjoy working with children that are going through difficult times and letting them know that I care about their future.
We are privileged with our charge of representing the best interest of children. And so therefore we can advocate for exactly what they need without restriction, focusing on their best interest.
I want to repair the world one child at a time.
Welcome back to CATSweek. On April 6th at the Bloomington City Council meeting, Mayor John Hamilton presented his proposal to increase the local income tax.
Bloomington is at a pivot point. You've all heard me describe pressing needs confronting us several times, I'll begin tonight with a different voice. Mayor Tommy Allison made the following comments in a 1984 memo to City Council that first established the local option income tax. Quote, "No government official wants to raise taxes which are unnecessary, but our first obligation is to provide basic services to our citizens. We must maintain the high quality of our police and fire services. We must maintain our streets, curbs, sidewalks, our equipment inventory, and our city facilities." Close quote. This 1984 income tax of 0.5% was raised another 0.5% 5 years later in a 1989 council action, bringing that basic lit local income tax to 1% some 30 years ago, where it stayed until 2016, when the Local Income Tax Council raised a 0.25% public safety lit to support critical investments in that sector. For 3 decades, together, we have provided those essential services, but in order to continue to do so, with several revenue sources declining, with city services and facilities expanding, with pressure on our employees and our expenses increasing, we must have additional revenue to continue the excellence that we have achieved and that our residents expect.
Hamilton said that Monroe County currently has a low local income tax compared to surrounding counties, and that the proposed 0.855% increase would place Monroe County in the middle. Councilmember Jim Sims responded to the mayor's proposal, saying he agreed a new revenue source is needed, but also warned that other costs have increased in the community as well.
I think it's very, very important. We talked about priorities. Speaking for myself, I think it's pretty clear that we're going to need a new revenue source. I think in our conversations, it's been clear on my part how much that we're actually going to need. We've also talked about the impact on, in particularly those that are the least of us in our community from an income standpoint. Also, I am concerned, well, not so much concerned, but I want to look at the impact. Not only we're talking lit, but every couple of years we're looking at utility rates increase. We're looking at other things. So I'm sure that's part of your thinking as we move forward.
During public comment, Peter Dorfman responded to the mayor's presentation and asked the council to ensure the rate is feasible for all residents.
When I saw earlier today the number, the gross figure that the mayor was asking for in the increase, I didn't choke at it. I didn't find it a nightmarish number, but I can say with, I think, complete confidence that I don't speak for many of my neighbors in the near west side, which, contrary to opinions that are held in some quarters, is not one of the more prosperous neighborhoods in the city. I think you have your constituent meetings coming up. I hope you will go out of your way to get impressions from a wide variety of your constituents about how they feel about the overall number. I also am hoping that we'll see a robust debate on the specific uses of funds that the mayor is proposing. In Appendix B of the proposal that the mayor produced recently about how he would spend this money, under the innocent-sounding heading, Equality and Quality of Life for All, I find a vague reference to something that is called, quote, supporting missing housing types. I would like to know precisely what use of funds that phrase represents and have that discussed publicly before the council moves forward with this. Thank you very much.
The next Bloomington City Council meeting will be held on April 13th. At the Monroe County Board of Zoning Appeals meeting on April 6th, planner and GIS specialist Ann Crecelius shared the Planning Department's recommendation for the Good Road General Contractor petition for conditional use on their property in Richland Township. Petitioner Glenn Goodroad spoke, asking the board to approve an extension of 1 year instead of 6 months to bring their property into compliance with the zoning requirements.
We are actively working with Ann, trying to do our part. And I appreciate Skip for stepping in, because I felt like you guys were willing to deny us right away without somebody stepping in and intervening that this could be handled. So I do appreciate that. Like I said, we're asking for more time because it takes time to do anything, especially with building materials, labor restrictions, or anything else. Obviously, we can get most of that done within the 6-month time period that they're asking for. But if that additional area that's needed for indoor storage, that's going to be a real tight constraint. And I know that other contractors that have been granted this variance have been granted 1 year from date of approval. So for us to ask for less than that, I think that's showing a little bit of favoritism, whether it's us or anybody else. Like I said, I know for a fact that it has been 1 year from date of approval, and you guys can go back to your January meetings and look through it. So I feel like that should be granted to each and every one of us if that's going to be the steadfast approach. Giving people time to do the things necessary. We're not trying to evade anybody. You can speak with Ann about that. We've answered any questions. We've spoke with her in a timely manner, trying to present and making sure that we're under compliance.
Petitioner Ashley Goodroad shared that they are working on the property in addition to doing other jobs, and explained that they need more time to get the job done.
I did majority of the paperwork on this, so I requested the time. When we met with Ann, she said, give yourself enough time. I mean, he works sometimes 7 days a week. So, you know, having the time to do this stuff on our property outside of his business is going to take time. But we were told, give yourself enough time, put a reasonable amount of time on there. We don't want to do 6 months and then come to October and we don't have the things done and then we're not in compliance again. So we are trying to be reasonable. We're not just asking for years to get it done.
The board voted 4-0 to approve the conditional use petition and granted the Goodroads until March 31st, 2023 to bring the property into compliance with the conditions. And we'll have more Cats Week after this message.
I'm at risk of thinking there's just no point in trying.
I'm at risk of looking in the mirror and hating what I see.
I'm at risk of regretting what I do, just to join the crowd.
I'm at risk of being told not to tell. And you would never know it by looking at me.
But with Girls Inc. in my corner,
There for me, every day, believing in me.
Showing me what's possible.
I can be strong enough to respect myself and my body.
to say I can rather than I can't,
To say no with no apology.
To be a leader.
to finish school,
To own my future.
To break the cycle.
Girls Inc. believes every girl can succeed. That's why the trained professionals of Girls Inc. are there for our girls every day, supporting, mentoring, and guiding them in a safe, girls-only environment. Building bonds that last for years and change that lasts a lifetime. Girls Inc. gives girls the tools they need to boldly face challenges, to resist peer pressure, to be the first in their families to go to college, to beat the odds. With Girls Inc. in her corner, every girl can be healthy, confident, and resilient. She'll do more than dream about her potential. She'll reach it.
With you in my corner. With you in my corner, I will not be another statistic. I will fight for myself.
For my future.
With you in my corner, I will win.
Fuel her fire and she will change the world. Girls Inc. Inspiring all girls to be strong, smart, and bold.
Welcome back to CATSweek. At the Monroe County Commissioners meeting on April 6th, the commissioners approved a grant that the Health Department received from the Indiana Family Health Council. Monroe County Board of Health Director Penny Caudill explained that the Futures Grant is a $15,000 grant for the Futures Family Planning Clinic. Commissioner Julie Thomas said that this grant is made possible because of the hard work of the Health Department.
This is just a great example of the hard work that our public health department does. So excellent work getting these additional funds.
County Attorney Jeff Cockrell presented an agreement with Fox Construction for highway garage relocation.
This bid was opened last week. We had two bidders. Fox Construction was the lowest bidder, and they have done work with us in the past, namely the emergency management building out at the highway. Essentially what the scope of this work is to revamp the current areas of our highway garage so that we can move more office staff out there. It's essentially taking some of the parts areas and making it into office spaces and redoing some windows and adding parking.
Highway Director Lisa Ridge explained that it will be better to have everyone in the department under one roof. Thomas said that it was not easy to relocate a department and noted that the project has taken a lot of time and work. The motion to approve the contract with Fox Construction passed unanimously. The commissioners also heard from Ridge about a contract with Yasmin L. Stump Law Group for the Fullerton Pike Stage 3 project. The contract amount is yet to be determined.
So we have used this firm on a couple other projects. It's only on an as-needed basis if we cannot reach negotiations with the property owner for a project. This is for Fullerton Pike Phase 3. And actually, the right-of-way acquisition is going very well. We are over half completed with the acquisition. So at this point, I don't anticipate using the services, but we always have it as a backup in case we need to seek out their assistance.
The commissioners approved the contract unanimously. On April 4th, at the Bloomington Redevelopment Commission meeting, Director of Housing and Neighborhood Development John Zodi suggested that the amount of money the Redevelopment Commission offers for emergency home repairs be increased permanently due to the rising costs of construction materials.
One item on my report tonight on agenda item C under number 6, we're going to ask you to consider the increase of a emergency home repair amount again. And I want to just provide some context there. We've asked you to do a number of these over the last several months, and we think it's important that probably later this summer or at a time, if the commission feels another time is appropriate, to revisit our program guidelines and look at revising those more permanently so that we aren't sort of doing this in a case-by-case basis, if you will. We'd like to be a little more consistent. Prices being what they are and work getting done is just more expensive generally, so we think it's time to take a look at those again. So just to let you know when that comes up, that is something the staff is recommending we do here before the end of the summer.
Economic and Sustainable Development Director Alex Crowley gave an update on the retail spaces available at parking garages.
One of the commissioners asked for an update on the retail spaces in the garage, just generally. So I'll talk a little bit about that. As you know, there are spaces at the Trade District garage on the north side of the building. It's about 4,500 square feet, something like that. And then there's a number of spaces at the 4th Street garage facing Walnut. And there are about 3 or 4 spaces there that aren't being used. One is being used by the parking services group. So we are actually in somewhat active discussions for the Trades District space, and I'll hopefully bring more information about that at the next meeting. And that would be for the entirety of the space if that were to work out. And so we've had some nibbles other than what the group that we're talking to right now. It's kind of a tough commercial moment, you know, as all of you know, in the commercial industry, or the commercial real estate sector. So, you know, we're really interested in trying to fill the spaces, obviously, and hopefully we can get that one filled. The 4th Street one, we have not gotten a lot of recent interest in. We did get a fairly substantial amount of interest a while back. The economics didn't end up working out for that potential tenant. So that one is a little bit less active right now. Certainly we'll bring you updates as we hear about it. My sense is things are maybe starting to pick up a little bit in commercial real estate, but it's not where it needs to be, and so it may take a little bit of time.
Zodi asked the commissioners to approve the increase of emergency home repair funding for a mobile home.
We are asking, as I mentioned before, asking the commission to consider the increase of a emergency home repair. This is for a mobile home for a resident here in Bloomington. As you know, the cap is $3,500. We have cost estimates that are coming back at varied amounts, which require us to ask for an increase of $4,500, not to exceed $8,000. This is largely for floor repairs in the sort of main thoroughfare of the residence, as well as in the kitchen.
The board approved the increase unanimously. That is all for CATSweek. Thank you for joining us. For CATS and WFHB, I'm Annalise Poorman.